Is there any chance that Dante Fowler is actually better than Randy Gregory in 2022? All that and so much more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your
Locked
daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, what's going on, sir?
How's it going? It's another week of OTAs. It was a nice long week. A long weekend. I hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day. Got out and got to do some grilling. But usually it kind of is the mark of the beginning of summer, right? That's what Memorial Day is for us. So this is really kind of as we start to get into what's normally called the dead season of the NFL. But there will be still plenty of news coming out as the OTAs continue as we lead our way into training camp. So I'm excited.
Yeah, yesterday was the first day in, I believe, 2 or 3 years where I just did not look at a computer screen all day long.
Wow.
And it was glorious.
Wow.
But now we're back, we're ready for the next couple months, which are always crazy, even though it's the dead season of the NFL. But today we are answering your Twitter questions, and we've got some really good ones.
Yeah.
A couple Cowboy-related ones, a couple general NFL-related ones. But the first one for you, Landon, is a really good one. It's from at Mr. Michael Mon. He wants to know, is it possible that Dante Fowler at age 27 can have a better career going forward than Randy Gregory? Now, before you answer, I should also point out the ages. So Fowler turns 28 here in August. Randy Gregory turns 30 in November. I know there's some people that'll talk about that, but 28-year-old Fowler against 30-year-old Gregory. What do you think?
First of all, I don't know that I've ever thought of it that way, but the fact that Dante Fowler is younger than Randy Gregory to me is surprising. I don't know why. It just is. It feels like that's, just like Gregory's been around forever, and I guess, but it's just still just feels weird that he's older. I don't know that it's realistic that Fowler specifically by himself has a better career than, I guess it could happen. But I think it's, if you're looking for the kind of more realistic, but, also optimistic take on this situation is I do think that there is a possibility that the Cowboys pass rush overall is better this year without Randy, not because Randy Gregory's gone, but just because of the makeup of everything and the step that Parsons will take and maybe a whole season, hopefully, of DeMarcus Lawrence. I think there are and better interior pressure. I think there are certainly ways that this Cowboys pass rush could be better than it was last season. I think there's less of a chance that Dante Fowler specifically by himself has a better career moving forward than Randy Gregory. I think Fowler's got a ton of different tools and similar to Gregory. I just think that, and I think that Fowler at different points has shown those tools more than Randy Gregory has. So, but I still think that Gregory is probably the better player right now. And I think that, despite not having huge sack numbers really at any point of his career, he's produced on a high level. He's got a high level number of pressures. So better than Gregory by himself, maybe not. Better than they were last year without Gregory this year, maybe.
All right. So here's how I would say that. I think there's going to be situations in games in which Fowler's better. Like, for example, first down and 10 midfield, there's just a chance that Fowler's a better player at that situation because he's just, I would say he's an average run defender, right? He's not elite. He's just average. The problem is Randy Gregory is not that, right? Randy Gregory is a below average run defender. Now on 3rd and 7, who do you trust more beating the left tackle to get a pressure? I trust Gregory, but Is there a chance that if the Cowboys can use Fowler more on base downs and they can do some more wild things on third down to get Micah Parsons rushing the passer, I think they could actually be better. But we'll see. Like you mentioned, it might be very team specific. I should also mention Gregory has had a hard time staying healthy. Like that's
Yeah.
aside from missing games due to suspension and stuff. Like he's battled a lot of injuries and he's doing it again this year. He has a shoulder surgery that's going to cause him to miss all of the offseason stuff. So if Fowler can stay healthy and stay reliably on the field, maybe he is better.
I mean, the thing about we can say it all we want because we've all been Randy Gregory fans for so long. The thing about Gregory is that it just we are still waiting, right? We're
He's 30
still
years
waiting
old.
on the promise, right? Like, I mean, I think last year he had 6 sacks, which is great, but a whole bunch of pressures, which felt like a step in the right direction. But I mean, even then, it still feels like it wasn't quite the step that we were hoping for. And it also, again,
Partly because he dealt with a calf injury. He had
yeah,
COVID for
I
some.
mean, whatever the reason is, right? And that's the thing is that it's seemingly always something, right? And like ultimately,
Sometimes it's his fault. Sometimes it's not, right?
yeah, and ultimately at some point we would like to see the promise of what he has skill set wise kind of realized in production, which we really haven't seen yet. So I think Fowler in that way has actually produced more than Gregory. And he's had a 10 sack season. He's had a couple of productive seasons with the Rams. So I think that's why it's a little bit difficult to parse because it's just kind of constantly this ongoing game of unfulfilled potential with Randy Gregory, and you just don't really know when it's going to actually manifest itself.
Randy Gregory has still not had a season in the NFL that he's played 500 or more snaps. Dante Fowler's done it, I believe. I'm looking at it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times he's eclipsed that number. It's just the ceiling is so much higher for Randy Gregory, and the pass rush upside is so much higher. But I think the floor for Fowler's probably quite a bit higher as well.
The potential is always alluring with Gregory, but
Yeah.
ultimately at the end of the day, we need production. Like that's what ultimately, makes the difference. So I think that's one thing that we're not going to have to deal with this year is the exciting upside of Gregory, but also just kind of being unsure of where, what we're actually going to get out of him game to game.
I agree. All right, let's take a quick break to tell you guys about our old friends at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock up on all the parts that you need. But Rock Auto has everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On and how did you hear about us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, Lane, the next question. The Cowboys are rumored, I don't know if it's confirmed, that they're going to have several joint practices during training camp, I believe, with 2 or 3 different teams, correct?
At least 2. Yeah, I think it was the Chargers, and then there was one other team, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it the
But
Rams?
it's not the Rams, no.
Not the Rams. Okay.
It was some other
definitely
team.
with the Chargers, for sure. This one from our guy at Yuma Cactus. He wants to know, how valuable are joint practices, considering that you've been there and you've seen them before?
Yuma's playing coy because he's been to several of those as well, so he knows as much as I do. I think that they have value. I mean, I think that they do have a different type of value than a normal training camp practice, and they have a different type of value than a preseason game. I think the beneficial part of having a joint practice is getting together between the 2 coaching staffs and developing controlled game like situations, right? And what does that mean? Well, when you're in a training camp practice, you're going against your own guys. Clearly, you're I mean, there's obviously regulations on how much padded practice that can go on. There's obviously regulations about what can go on even when you're not in pads. And then on top of all that, you're also kind of self-regulating with the sense that you're dealing with your own teammates, right? You don't want anybody to get hurt out there because you need everybody to be healthy for the regular season. And not that you're not going to worry about that when you're scrimmaging with other teams, but I think there is that next level, that extra level of intensity that goes on when you're practicing, when you're hitting against other guys. I mean, you go and you watch these practices day in and day out, for 20 straight days in Oxnard or wherever the heck they are. They're banging on the same guys every single day in practice. They're hitting the same guys. They know their techniques. These rookies study the vets to know exactly how to beat them to look good in practices. So getting another set of bodies with another set of skill sets, and again with an extra kick of intensity, almost like a game type situation. And then the other part of it, right, is that the coaches can actually control the scenarios, right, as opposed to a preseason game where you're still kind of pretending that this is a game and you're flowing through the different aspects of the game. In a controlled practice, you can actually put these guys into controlled situations. Okay, it's a 2-minute game. It's a 2-minute situation. The defense is down by 7. Dallas, you've got to score. Chargers, you got to stop them. Go. You get like a little bit better look at exactly what you have, what is working. And also, I think you get a different look at some of the younger players on their team. Suddenly, again, they're playing a different set of players. They may not have the same level of familiarity that has been developed by playing, going snap after snap after snap with the same guys week in and week out. So I think there's a lot that can be gained from that. The downside is obviously that intensity can spill into, fights, injuries that can happen, those sort of things. But I think nowadays
I don't care about the fights. The fights are kind of
they've done a better job of kind of keeping that in under control. And I think, like I said, the benefits there are enormous. I think that McCarthy learned that more than anybody else last year, because I don't think this is something that he's used to, because he's not used to having training camps near other teams. Yeah. So I think that this is something that is beneficial to the teams, and it's beneficial for evaluation, and it's beneficial for getting better as well.
I also think, and you kind of mentioned it, but you just get to see different types of players, right? Like, let's say you're the first team defense for the Cowboys and you're playing, practicing against Dak all the time. You kind of have an idea what Dak does, right? He gets rid of the ball quickly and it's accurately, and not going to throw the ball down the field a ton, 60 yards down the field. It's just not really his game. He's a great quarterback. That's not really what he excels at. Now you're practicing against Justin Herbert, and it's completely different from what you're used to, right? Now you get a guy that wants to get outside the pocket and wants to throw the ball 65 yards down the field. If you're Kelvin Joseph, a year 2 cornerback, you can't be sitting on all the underneath routes, right? You've got to be able to turn and run with Mike Williams down the field. Like, just that part of it alone makes these practices worthwhile, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just different body types, different player types. It's just, the benefit of different looks, which gives you more tools in your tool set when you're ready to start playing in the regular season. It gives the coaches and the evaluators a better and different look at these guys to kind of break up the monotony, to make sure that it's like a different type of data point to kind of help make you feel better about what you're seeing on the field day to day with these guys.
About that, I was thinking about Terrence Steele in training camps and these joint practices. So he's going to have to deal with DeMarcus Lawrence, maybe the best run defending edge in football. He'll have Micah Parsons rushing on that side. And then when you go against the Chargers, it's Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Not going to be a lot of easy days for Terrence Steele coming up here in July and August.
At the same time, it's all downhill from there.
That's exactly why it's important for him, right?
Because it's not going to get any harder.
For the best edge rushers in the NFL, you're going to get to practice against for a month.
Yeah, and then everything after that is basically easy compared to going against, the 2 guys for the Chargers and the Cowboys 2 guys. I mean, so it's these again are the benefits of rotating these guys in. Every team has got special players on it. And the opportunity to go against those different types of special players get you prepared for when you have to face special players later in the season at other positions that, maybe your team doesn't have.
I agree. All right. Next question from Clayton. Predict the punt returner based on who is on the roster. And is Tony Pollard still the kick returner? I got a feeling that Pollard's going to remain the kick returner, right? I just think they probably trust him the most. It's not a job that puts you in a lot of danger. I mean, because you can fair catch ones that you don't like, or you can, just down them in the end zone. Punt returner is a little different. What do you expect the Cowboys to do there?
They're going to look at all the guys. I think that they'll probably still put CeeDee Lamb out there if it's like they're
backed up in their own 5.
And there's going to be a lot of runway to get going, and they're not going to be able to outrun the kick. I think that those are situations you'll still see CD. Outside of that, I wouldn't be surprised if Tolbert took some snaps there. Some of these corners,
Jordan Lewis has done it in the
Jordan,
past.
that's right. Lewis has done it in the past. There's some of these other guys who would just have more sure hands that I think, we haven't seen. I think I kind of felt like, didn't Rico Dowdle do some punt return stuff when he was there last year? So they will look at other guys doing the punt return stuff. I don't imagine, obviously, that CeeDee Lamb is going to be your primary punt returner now, since he's the number one wide receiver. So look for the down roster wide receivers. Look at some running backs. Like I said, the defensive backs. I mean, obviously Lewis, but I also think that Bossman Fat can return punts if I'm not mistaken. So there will be a kind of a different kind of practice trial situation to see exactly who can do it. It's not going to mean that anybody makes the team as a punt returner. It's more of who of the players that are going to make the team can return punts. And I think that's usually how they'll kind of figure that out. It's just not a position that you keep a specific roster spot for anymore.
Unless they're very, very dynamic.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be really, really good. And I don't think there's anybody out there right now that I think fits that bill. We should mention that Micah Parsons does have kick return ability, and he's done it before, and he's done it in practice at Penn State. I mean, at this point, there's nothing that I'm going to doubt that he can't do. But I got a feeling Dallas isn't going to want to use him that way, even though, as much as he tries to bribe the coaching staff.
He'll hurt somebody. Especially on punt return, man. Like that would hurt somebody. I don't know. Like you give all those guys like all that free runway to get up to sprinting, and if you give Micah like 2 steps, like you're going to cause a collision that is going to level the entire stadium.
He wouldn't be the first Cowboy linebacker to return kicks, though. You know who the other one is?
No, I don't.
It would be Hollywood Henderson in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I should have known that one.
Hollywood had a really long touchdown, I believe, during his rookie season with the Cowboys. It was like 97 yards. Pretty impressive, by the way. One of the best athletes from that 75 team.
If you guys look, I know that we have some younger Cowboys fans. If you guys don't know who Hollywood Henderson is, man, go look that up. What an incredible life. Not just career. I mean, he dealt with some drug rehab stuff. I'm pretty sure he won the lottery more than once, if I'm not mistaken. Twice. So definitely you guys make sure to check out Hollywood Henderson. Maybe the original Dallas Cowboys character, right? Like as far as like the brash, like, he may have been, if not the first, like one of the very first guys who was of that type of player. It's really, really worth checking out.
It was in the Super Bowl against the Steelers that he had a 48-yard kick return too. Super Bowl 10, I believe. So that would be fun. It would be fun just to see it once for Micah Parsons to do it. But as a full-time job, no, I don't think so. All right, Landon, our final question here from Chris. He wants to know, what are your favorite non-Cowboys football podcasts to listen to? I feel like this is just a chance for me to promote the power ranking show that I do with Elliot Harrison. It comes after this. But what is your favorite show?
Wait, so we're just doing non-football podcast?
Non-Cowboys. Your favorite?
Oh, non-Cowboys. The power ranking show is obviously definitely the one that everyone should be checking out. I really like the Athletic Football podcast. I think that one's really good. I like Robert Mays a lot. Let's see. I listen obviously the Locked On NFL podcast is good.
Yeah, one of my favorites, the Audible with Saban Bloom, Matt Wallman, Cecil Lehman. It's really the first football podcast that I really started to get into. So that's one. Obviously, we should promote the Locked On NFL podcast, one of our favorites here. Any other ones that come to mind for you?
I would just echo the Sigmund Bloom, the football guys one is basically also one of the reasons that I got into football podcasting, because I enjoyed their show so much. I think the draft show it's just finished up, but I like going back and listening to Dane and who's the NFL guy? Why am I the son of the offensive line coach?
Nate Tice.
Nate, no, not Nate. No, that's also great. I'm talking about Ross. This is terrible radio. I'm sorry. He
Russ,
works for
it's
NFL.com.
not Ross Tucker, right?
Not Russ Tucker. I can't remember who it is. But anyways, there's a couple of different athletic football podcasts that are good.
Oh, you're talking about Lance Zierlein.
Lance Zierlein. Why am I thinking Russ? Maybe his dad's name is Ross Zierlein. Is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, I think that those are really good. Obviously, several of the Locked On podcasts are fantastic. Locked On NFL, Peacock and Williams is really good. Yep. Yeah, Locked On NFL Draft. Those are all really good ones.
Do you have any favorite non-football podcasts you like to listen to?
Yes, I got lots of favorite
non-football Go ahead. This is a good time. This is a good time to load up on podcasts to listen to.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of a podcast called How Did This Get Made? It's a podcast about bad movies. And they basically watch a bad movie, and then it's three comedians, Paul Scheer, June Diane Raphael, and Jason Mantzoukas. And they basically they talk about the podcast and make fun of it. We talk about the movie and make fun of it. It's hilarious. What are some of your favorite ones? I know I've got a ton.
I listen to podcasts all the time, so this is just
Me
right
too.
up my alley.
I know it's like I got to pull out the podcast app and like look at all mine, right?
Yeah, the Rewatchables podcast on the internet,
yes.
which is they review old movies. The last one they did was Rocky 3, which I enjoyed as a huge Rocky fan. Plain English is a new podcast that I like to listen to with Derek Thompson. Again, another Ringer podcast where it's social stuff going on, politics, and just easily explain it for somebody that doesn't watch a lot of news or anything. If you want just a general idea of what's going on in the world, that's a very good one. And then I listen to a bunch of fantasy podcasts. Established a Run with Evan Silva. If you want a football related one, but yeah, that's mostly it.
The PFF, I like the PFF podcast as well with Sam and Steve. That's really good as well. I'm just kind of going through my list. There's a great one called Newcomers. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. That's a non-football podcast, and it's Lauren Lapkus and Nicole Byer from Nailed It. I don't know if you know that show, but they are basically unindoctrinated nerds, and they watch nerd culture. So they watch they've never seen Star Wars before, and they are now as adults watching Star Wars and commenting on it. I think they're doing the entire Marvel universe right now. They've never seen any of these.
Sounds like me. I've never seen Star Wars or Marvel movies.
You would get it. It's like them going, what is going on? What are you people watching? It's pretty hilarious. So
that's great. There you go. That's like 15 podcasts we just rattled off there. So
there you go.
You got the next couple months to listen to those shows. You also have us. We're going to be here mostly daily. I would say at least 3 to 4 times a week. But we still have to figure that out. But tons of football content coming to you tomorrow. We should tell the listeners what we're working on. We're going to do a kind of recapping the Cowboys offseason. I know a lot of Locked On Mavs fans have tuned in over the last couple of days. I don't really know why. I don't know what happened with you guys, why you're starting to listen to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, but
thank Isaac and Nick. I guess I don't unless we have to thank them for that. So appreciate you guys.
So we're gonna recap everything the Cowboys did, why they traded Amari Cooper, why they released Lyle Collins. We're still working through that to figure out why they did some of those moves, but we'll try to describe that the best as possible. So make sure you guys do that. Make sure you check out the Locked On NFL channel. As we've mentioned in the podcast over there, they do a great job of explaining what's going on in the league, the biggest storylines. They have you covered over there. Download our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you guys next time.